Treat presents Hedda Hopper's Hollywood. Treat is the meat folks love to eat. Slice it cold right from the tin. Fry it, broil it, bake it in the loaf. Treat is the meat you just can't beat. Armour & Company, makers of Treats, the favorite meal-ready meat, brings you Hedda Hopper with a lowdown on the higher-ups in Hollywood. And here she is.
Hello, everybody. This is Hedda Hopper broadcasting from San Francisco, where foreign ministers are a dime a dozen and cheek by jowl with our taxi drivers, policemen, and FBI men. Any day you can go down to the waterfront and watch ships sailing in from the South Pacific, being met by a long line of hospital trains, nurses and boys being tenderly moved into ambulances. San Francisco, where hospitality flows on like a great river. Mrs. Harper Sibley, number one mother of 1945, arrived here yesterday and got as much space as any top diplomat. She's the mother of 6, grandmother of 13. At the Stage Door Canteen last night, our own Hollywood star, Jimmy Cagney, was MC. Phil Baker was there with his accordion, Sylvia Sidney, and H.B. Cortenborn. The Brock Pembertons flew out from New York because last night they celebrated 2 years of entertainment and hospitality for our boys. The place was so crowded a gnat couldn't have made a 3-point landing. Helen Hayes, playing here in Harriet, got caught in a traffic jam, too. She was entertaining some friends at luncheon. They just reached dessert when the maitre d' came over, whispered to Helen. He was frightfully sorry, but the table had been reserved for still another party. Could they hurry, please? The girls got so excited, thinking nobody less than Lord or Lady Halifax would walk in. They lingered as long as possible, and as they were leaving, in walked Walter Winchell and his gang and took over Helen's table. Roy Howard, head of Scripps Howard newspapers, sent out a false armistice before last war was ended. So Saturday, when he heard this war was over, then the denials which followed, Roy locked himself in his own room so that nobody could possibly blame him this time. Lunching with Elsa Maxwell, as I did yesterday, was not only a mental but a physical hazard. First, I couldn't get a word in edgewise. Then she squeezed half a lemon into a glass of water I forgot to duck and got it smack in the eye. And as one of her guests said, isn't Elsa wonderful? If she can't kill off a competitor any other way, she blinds them. Hot off my Hollywood wire, Merle Oberon phoned to say she's off to Mexico to divorce Sir Alexander Korda. Betty Davis's mother en route to Boston to confer with publishers on the story she's written of Betty's life. Ann Baxter's back with her old flame again, Dick Durr. Ed Gardner's shopping like mad for an overseas trip. Ingrid Bergman and Joe Cotton, both on David Selznick's suspension list, went to his party Saturday night dressed as maid and butler and helped serve his guests. From New York comes word that beautiful Dolores Del Rio is leaving for Hollywood to be the house guest of the Jack Warners. Claudette Colbert will thank God for that. It's the title of her picture with Jesse Lasky. No, Veronica Lake's not afraid of Will Hayes. In her next, she'll wear half a dozen sweaters, but not at the same time. When Irving Berlin watched Joan Caulfield at the dance rehearsals for Blue Skies, he said to her, you know, if you want to, you can be the Irene Castle of your day. Well, I wanted to be the Irene Castle of her day, but I never made it. And just keep the record straight, Orson Welles is off. This is my best show, for a spell at least. Herbert Marshall takes over for him tomorrow night. Ran into Mrs. Joe Davidson, wife of the famous sculptor, who tells me her husband is well on the road to recovery. Harry James is not buying a baseball club. John Hall passed his physical, reports for induction May the 9th. Wendell, of course you've heard about the drastic meat shortage here in San Francisco.
Yes, but you have plenty of friends here. Have you raided any ice boxes?
I haven't had to. My pals have been calling, offering me steaks and chops. But I tell them all I came fully prepared for the meat shortage. I came with a goodly supply of Treat.
Well, you were smart, Hedda, because Treat is the meat for extra good meals. Everywhere the trend is to Treat. Taste Treat's full-flavored goodness, its delicate seasoning. See how tender Treat is. Compare Treat with any other meal-ready meat, and you'll know why thousands of housewives say there's just no other meat like Treat. For Treat is made of choice pork that is carefully selected for Treat alone. and treat is sealed in the tin before cooking, so none of the rich meat flavor can escape. It's this vacuum cooking, right in treat's own natural juices, that makes treat so flavorful, tender, and high in vitamins and food value. No wonder even the best cooks say they cannot duplicate treat's goodness in meats they cook at home. Enjoy a treat dinner at your house tomorrow. You can get treat, T-R-E-E-T, in leading food stores everywhere. Armour makes treat and makes it good. And now for Hedda Hopper's Hats Off.
In Beverly Hills, there's a room like no other in the whole world. It's arranged like a library with shelves from floor to ceiling on all sides, but no books. Instead, there are 257 trophies ranging from wine cups to massive gold and silver punch bowls. And mounted on black velvet behind glass are 27 gold medals. The things in that room represent more glory than any other single athlete ever won, and they're insured for more than $300,000. And by right of conquest, they all belong to Sonia Henne. Today, they call her Snow Queen. Various people have called her other things, too. Sonia was born the daughter of a fur trader in Norway, and she timed her arrival during a terrific blizzard. By the time she was 3, she was prattling incessantly with gestures. She danced more than she walked and pretended all over the place. No, she wasn't a changeling. She just had an Irish grandmother. She had dancing lessons when she was 4 and got her first pair of skates at 6. She wasn't exactly a snowbird when she started out on the ice. She fell as many times as you or I. She loved the speed and freedom which her skates gave her and spent every available second on ice. Became a regular show-off. At 11, she was Norwegian champion. At 13, she was second in the world contest. And at 14, she was world champion, and she's never lost that title. When she was 23, Sonia decided that all the glory in the world wouldn't buy a sable coat or a Rolls Royce. So she turned professional. She had heard there was gold lying in the streets of Hollywood, so waking and dreaming Hollywood became her goal. But she approached it like a kitten goes after a mouse. She got some backing and appeared in an ice show at Madison Square Garden in New York. A Paramount scout spotted her, fetched her to Hollywood, and offered her a sequence in one picture at a pretty fair figure. Sonia said she'd work out her own figures, thank you. So she and her mother planned their campaign. They rented a house, furnished it completely in white, bought a white car. Then she called in the press to announce plans for an ice show in the only rink in Los Angeles. She's too canny to tell anybody what that cost, but it netted her $20,000. Darryl Zanuck saw her the last night, decided to stick his neck out, and offered her a contract. That's when they began calling her Stormy Sonia, for she demanded and got everything she asked for. Lots of wise ones thought Darryl should have seen a psychiatrist. That opus was called 1 in a Million, and the title was perfect in more ways than one. It made quite a haul for 20th century, and it made Sonia Henne in America. She was listed among the first 10 screen attractions that year. They don't call her Golden Sonia for nothing. She had free time between pictures, so decided to produce and star in her own ice show. With her brain working as fast as her feet, she formed her own company and cleaned up millions. And she married more millions. Her husband is Captain Dan Topping, who's part owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers and has other enterprises. And while he's away, Sonia's keeping a weather eye out on his interests, too. It's one thing to have talent, another to make the most of it. One thing to rise to eminence in one field, and something else again to create a whole new field of popular entertainment and hold supremacy against all comers. That's what Sonia Henne has done, and that's why my hat's off to her.
Now here is Hedda Hopper with her treat of the week.
The treat of the week is Blood in the Sun. Yes, the Cagney boys did it again. Brother Bill produced and Brother Jimmy acted. It's a timely picture with a terrific sock. Opens in San Francisco this Wednesday. Jimmy plays an American editor of a Tokyo newspaper, and the story takes place when the Jap warlords are plotting their secret attack on Pearl Harbor. In his efforts to get some Rising Sun documents over to the United States, the picture goes through murder intrigue that will keep your blood pressure at high point during the whole thing. Sylvia Sidney plays opposite Jimmy, and you'll like her, too. This was directed by Frank Lloyd, his first since returning from seeing action in the Army Air Corps. If you want plenty of action, Blood on the Sun is the picture you've been looking for.
Treat is the meat folks love to eat. Slice it cold right from the tin. Fry it, broil it, bake it in the loaf. Treat is the meat you just can't beat. Treat is the meat that gets a big welcome any day. Try this tomorrow. Chill a tin of Treat in the refrigerator. Just before mealtime, slice the Treat and arrange on a platter with tomatoes, which have been scooped out and filled with cream slaw. There's just the kind of meal that men especially like. Mighty satisfying and rich with a fine meat taste that Treat always brings to the table. And because Treat is all meat, it's a great ration stretcher. One tin makes 4 big servings. So get Treat tomorrow. And remember, no other meat tastes just like Treat. Armour makes Treat and makes it good. And now here's Hedda Hopper with the last-minute news from Hollywood.
My, Gravel-Gertie cast daily teams with Adder-tongued Clifton Webb and the networks come fall. If you want variety, well, this should give you a nervous breakdown. Spence Tracy has asked Brock Pemberton to let him do a streamlined version of Harvey for our boys overseas. No, I'm not giving out the Hollywood telephone numbers of Paulette Goddard, Betty Grable, or Lana Turner, even though I've been offered plenty to reveal that information. Why, a fella could make a fortune up here just selling telephone numbers. Today I thought I'd go back to Noah Webster and see how he defined peace as applied to international relations. You know how it is. We all blithely sling words around, but seldom open a dictionary to find out if we know what we're talking about. Here's the basic definition. A treaty of reconciliation between hostile nations. But we're trying for something far beyond that. We're striving for a peace between friendly nations to keep them friendly. But many of us are doing our best to prevent any kind of peace, because loving the sound of our own voices, we like to declaim that we never can have a lasting peace simply because we never have had one before. Well, a lot of people right here in San Francisco said it was impossible to build bridges across the bay, but we've got them, and beautiful ones, too. You know, a businessman said to me this morning, "How can you have peace when none of the nations will agree on all the terms?" Now, here's my idea, said he, of what it should be. When he got through, his idea wasn't any better than yours or mine or 1,000 other folks. So I asked the man at the cigar stand, a banker, a cab driver, the maid at the hotel, and a woman who sews for the Red Cross. Not one of them agreed. Doesn't this prove that peace is impossible? Nonsense. Our forefathers had a ding-dong, long-drawn-out battle about what the Constitution should contain. But it turned out to be a great document. So let's make up our minds in advance that the delegates will disagree violently on many subjects. But let's dedicate our hearts to this principle, that as long as men are willing to travel 6,000 miles to sit around a table and discuss peace, there's hope for it. Our Constitution wasn't perfect when it was written. That's why we've amended it 21 times. Perhaps we would have reached our goal sooner if we'd heeded the words of the Prince of Peace at his Last Supper. "A new commandment I give unto you, children, that you love one another." This is Hedda Hopper, your armor correspondent, reminding you to put a bond in the bank for a Yank and saying good night to you from San Francisco.
Hedda Hopper's Hollywood with Dick Arant and his music will be brought to you again next week at the same time on the same station by Armour & Company, makers of Treat, famous Armour Star meats, and Clover Bloom dairy products. In the meantime, do you know how to have all the good beef gravy you want without spending a single ration point? Use Armour's Vitalox, the beef gravy maker. It's made with concentrated beef juices, costs less than 2% per serving. Get a bottle of Vitalox, Vitalox, at any good food store. This is Wendell Niles speaking for Armour & Company, and this is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.